and I know that's part of this is to comply with the NICLU settlement. In full interest disclosure, I was not supportive of that when I saw that. I think, as one of my colleagues up here mentioned, the use of the SHU is a tool that is used to keep our correction officers that are in our facilities safe, but not just our correction officers, but the inmates that are trying to do their time and not try to be a part of a problem. So in the budget, I know there's about $6.8 million in savings, 110 FTEs that are going to be, they said they can be transferred. And I know part of that NICLU settlement, there's a lot of money that's being invested to comply with that. But like for some of these workers who might be dislocated and might have to travel hundreds of miles away to another facility, away from their families, is there going to be any accommodations for them for housing or for travel to make their lives a little easier when they might be losing their job?
We're very confident that we can accommodate as best as possible the staff that are at these units. I attrit every pay period, I believe, something like 54, 55 staff. So there's always vacancies being created. As these units get emptied, the staff will work with them to get them in other jobs in that facility, and I believe we're going to leave them there till May when there's a re-ranking list, and so they'll have better options to pursue. So my system changes very quickly. There's a lot of attrition. There's a lot of new demands for correction officers, and in fact, we are predicting that we will need in the upcoming fiscal year as many as 8 academy classes to fill the vacancies in our system that are created.
Because one of the areas, not physically in my district, but nearby is Southport, so definitely have some concerns relative to the employees that are there. I know there's going to be changes being made to the facility, and I think anything that would be able to allow those individuals who have been there for a number of years to stay there where they have their families, I think would be a positive thing, and also to send a positive message to them through this transition. I want to get into the issue of, one of the big issues we know is drugs are a big problem in our prisons. And from some of the information I'm getting, and I'd hope that maybe you can clarify for us statewide, the number of drug tests that are going on in the prisons, how many people are testing positive, what are the results of those tests? Because I think you mentioned in your statement that you would rather see us get to them before they get into the prison than afterward. And I think on that front, you mentioned the use of the canine drug dogs, and we have 54 correctional facilities across the state, and I think I heard you say we have 11 that we're using. I think the success of the canine drug is well known. Why not make that investment and put them in every facility across the state? Another tool that's given to our law enforcement, so if people are coming in with drugs, we can catch them before it gets in. And that will help relieve the powder keg environment that, quite frankly, I think is going on in our facilities, whether they're maximum or medium security prison. Any plans on your part, in addition to the millions of dollars that are being invested for the NICLU settlement, to give our officers, our COs, and our prisons more drug dogs in the facilities to keep them out when they get in, and then because the package program was put aside. Some people thought it was a bad idea, some people thought it was a good idea, but the drug dogs, I think everyone can recognize it's a good idea. Let's get to them before they get into the prisons and put them in every facility. Can't cost that much money and would make a significant impact on addressing the drug problems. Because I've heard some statistics, 2,500 annual just in one region of drug tests, and that's something we have to address, because with the gangs that we know are in our facilities, with the assaults that are rising dramatically, and from your own numbers, from 2012, probably 40% inmate on staff assaults, and on inmate assaults up 70%. If you look at the numbers, that's a powder keg environment. And I don't know about anyone else, and I'm sure they do. Every so often, there's an article in the paper about an inmate getting attacked. Or a corrections officer getting attacked by an inmate. And I think we need to do more to give them the tools they need to protect themselves, because they have a very dangerous job. And the NICLU settlement, I think, takes tools away from them. I think the drugs could be an issue to help them. So is there anything you can do to give us the drug result test, and what's your plans on expanding the canine unit statewide to all our facilities to address this problem?
Well, there's a lot you said there, Assemblyman, and I certainly respect everything that you've said. I couldn't agree more that our staff have a tough job, and I'm very proud of the job that they do. I don't think at this point we're ready to expand the canine units, but I can tell you that I've really stepped up our OSI narcotics unit. We have phenomenal means of intelligence that we learn of who's potentially smuggling drugs in. We work with outside law enforcement. We seek criminal prosecutions because anybody trying to smuggle drugs into a correctional facility is a felony, dangerous drugs. It should raise it to a felony. So I can tell you that we are open to expanding this. I don't know if putting a team, a canine at every facility would still be 100% effective. But back to your earlier question as to the percentage of individuals that test positive by random urinalysis, I checked it a while ago, but it's not nearly as high as you might think. It's
Could you provide those information?
yeah, I can definitely get those. I can't remember off the top
That's
of my
fine.
head, but I'll get that for you.
That's fine. Another question, one of the issues that, we've talked about in the past, and that is the issue of double bunking and double selling. And again, with the NICLU settlement, there's a lot of millions of dollars being invested into the correctional facilities to address that. But by, I think, our own statistics, we still have in the neighborhood of 6,494 combination of double bunks and double cells in our facilities, both at maximum, medium facilities. Certainly, that's an environment that I believe, a lot of my colleagues believe, is a dangerous environment, not just for the corrections officers who are in these facilities, but for the inmates. I've been to a facility where it was in a dorm-like setting, because I have toured all the facilities in and around my district, and you would have 60 inmates in a room, not a big room, and they were in a cubicle, double bunk, and not much bigger space than me to Mr. Weapon. And I don't think that's a positive environment. I know the administration and the governor has gone around touting the closure of prisons and is proud of it. But we should get rid of these double bunks and double cells as quick as possible to make for a safer environment, not just for our corrections officers, but for the inmates that are in these facilities. And I think we should have a plan in place, because there's a lot of plans to deal with the NICLU settlement, but not a lot of plans to deal with the double bunking and double selling. And I think between the drugs and the double bunking and double selling, and we know the assaults are up dramatically. I know you said there's a decrease, but if you look from 2012 to now, dramatic increase in the assaults on our corrections officers and a dramatic increase in assaults on inmates. And we're in a power keg environment, and I'm very concerned about what's going to happen in these facilities. It's not enough just to go around saying we're closing prisons. We got to give our corrections officers the tools they need to do their job, but to do it so they can be safe, so they can get home to their families. And for the other inmates in the facility who are just trying to do their time, we have to be able to get the bad guys out of there and separate them from those instances. And that's where I'm concerned, where some of these settlements are taking away important tools to keep everyone else safe in that facility. I'd like to know your comments on that with the double bunking, double selling, and your plans on that.
Yeah, just to clarify, when we were overcrowded, we had to take 5% of our maximum security space and convert that to double cells. And these were very small cells that were built to just hold one person. And we did that at 13 of our then existing 14 maximum security facilities. Southport was the only example, so 5%. And I have basically, a few years ago, it started under my predecessor, but I continued it. We've taken down basically every cell in a max that had originally been converted, was originally a single and converted to double, with very few exceptions. I think just the depot at Auburn, and I think a few double cells at Downstate. So there's just a small number of double cells still being operated that were originally single cell construction. The new construction was double celled, and those are all 105 square feet. So those cells at Upstate and at 5 Points, those are new maximum security facilities, all double celled with 105 square feet. And I believe the cadre unit at Southport also was double celled. Again, those cells were built large enough for two, and of course all the S blocks were built for two inmates. So there's ample space there, or at least it's not crowded. With respect to the dorms, there's a maximum under the standards allowed by the SCOC of 60 in a multiple occupancy unit. And in order to fit 60 in, you have to double the back 10 against the wall, and that's where the double bunks are. And I get it that, people would say, well, if we put only 54 in instead of 60, because when we open them, that's exactly what we put in there. We put 54 because we put 2 beds on each end, so each cookie-cutter facility, when it opened, had 54. We added 6 more consistent with an SCOC standard that allowed as many as 60, and to do it in such a way that the officer would have a full panoramic view of the dorm, we double bunked the back 10. So space-wise, it's just six more than what we originally had when they opened many, many years ago. But I understand your concerns, and again, I couldn't agree with you more that the officers have a tough job, and we should do everything possible to make them as safe as possible.
Something in your comments kind of caught my attention. I just kind of wanted to follow up on it. I know when we were talking about the issue of double bunking, I thought I heard correctly, said some more of the issues are around our maximum security prisons. I kind of want to disagree with you on that from the perspective of when we look at the violence, we talk about the violence statistics that are going on in our facilities, inmate on assault, and we talk about generally the broad numbers, just total. In 2012, it was 524. In 2017, it was 798. But if you look at the medium security facilities, in 2012 it was 114 assault inmate on corrections officers on staff. In 2017, it was 198. That's nearly a 75% increase in assaults going on in our medium security facilities. And I was been to, the most recent assault happened in Groveland, nearby my district. I've been to Groveland and Livingston. And when I went to that facility, the double bunks, they weren't just the ones on the back, they were the whole corridor. And I think with the closures, I think this has kind of expanded this problem. The violence in our mediums are going up, the reclassification of prisoners, the increase of gangs into drugs. I think this is a growing problem. And I know you mentioned in your testimony about, we have a responsibility, and when someone asks, why can't we just get rid of them? Well, we have a responsibility to taxpayers. The only thing I would say in that, I can't speak for everyone, but the taxpayers I represent would want us to make sure we're spending the proper resources to make sure that the men and women who go to a dangerous job every day have the resources they need to do their job. And would rather see it spent on them to protect them than maybe some of these, the settlement we talked about, taking away tools, some of these other things that are going for those in the facilities. We have to have a balance. I'm not saying we can't do everything, but we have to have a balance. And I think it's important that we're making sure that we let our corrections officers and our people working in these dangerous environments that we have their backs. And I'm not sure they feel we have that way. So if it means revisiting the packaging program that the governor rescinded right away, we should do that. If it means drug dogs in every correctional facility, then we should do that. If it means pepper spray straight-wide, then we should do that. If it means more staffing in our facilities, then we should do that. If it means we're getting rid of the double bunks and the double cells once and for all, we should do that. If we need to lower the threshold and the number of beds in a dorm setting, then we should do that. And I've heard that there's been situations in a double bunk, double cell, where there's been the inmate murdered his inmate. So it's definitely a problem. But when I look at those statistics, from 114 assaults in a medium security prison to 198 in just 5 years, we have a problem in our facilities that need to be addressed, and we need to make sure that these officers, these people who go to work every day, know we have their back. 75% increase is unacceptable, and we need to find out and get at the root of that problem. The drugs, the gangs, all of that. And we need to send a clear message. The governor could send a real clear message to the corrections officers and the men and women who work in these facilities that we have their back. And I just haven't heard it from him, Commissioner. And I know you speak very highly of the men and women who work in our facilities, but we need the governor to walk the walk as well as talk the talk. And I have a concern on this issue, and I'm going to continue to speak out. A lot of my colleagues will, but when I see those statistics, you can't dismiss them because they're from your website. It's a 75% increase of inmate on correction officers on staff assaults increase in 5 years. And I think the double bunking, the double celling, the prison closures are a part of that. And I just want to make sure you understood that from my perspective, and hopefully that's something we can address when we're making investments in changing our correctional facility operations. So anything you want to comment on that? Otherwise, I appreciate you just taking my comments into consideration.
Briefly.
I'll be very, very brief. The only thing I will say is with the assault numbers, remember, This is not the penal law definition of assault. We have a very low threshold. If you just reach out and grab an officer's hand, you've laid your hands on an officer, that's an assault. So to understand the level of violence, you also have to look at what kind of injuries are involved. And you promulgated new standards for us years ago, and we agreed to them. We have 4 different definitions. The overwhelming majority, like 74-something%, no injury at all. And couple that with the minor injury, it's something like 90-something%. Only very small percentage are actually moderate, and I don't think we've had any severe. I'd have to double check. Again, I don't condone ever, putting your hands on an officer, but in terms of the violence, you have to look at those numbers as well, and the increase. The increases bother me, but the increase this year is still less than what we had, the total number in 2015. So I'm not sure there's a dangerous trend there as you're concerned. And also, I will say just one anecdotal story that I think really epitomizes the governor's care for our correctional staff. It was Memorial Day weekend, I think 2 years ago, when we got the word that a correction officer at home was severely burnt when a bomb blew up in his face. And we had no idea, where that came from. The original thought could be an inmate. That was on, Sunday morning. That Monday, he was in the hospital to visit with that family. Couldn't see the officer. He was so severely burned. Thank God he's recovered, and thank God it had nothing to do with the inmate population. But I'm sure on a Memorial Day weekend, he had better things to do than to drop everything and get out to that hospital and check on that officer's condition.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Earlier today, when we were talking about with the commissioner relative to the increase in violence for the past several years, from 2012 to 2017, the big spike in increase both on inmate on corrections officers or staff and inmate on inmate. One of the big statistics that kind of jumped out was the dramatic increase in our medium security facilities. 114 in 2012 up to 198 in 2017, almost a 75% increase. What, from your perspective, from talking to the CEOs and the people in the medium security facilities, is really has driven that increase in assaults on our corrections officers and our staff in these medium security facilities?
You've seen a significant drop in the inmate population since the amendment of the Rockefeller drug laws. And now what you have is a smaller inmate population, but a much more violent inmate population. We spoke in 2014 about the reclassification of maximum security inmates to medium security. Well, now our medium securities are running at capacity. Our maxes are running at capacity. And now you've still got the same kind of inmate, whether he's locked up behind a set of bars, or if he's in a dormitory type setting, or whether he's gang affiliated, or whatever the case may be. But listening to you earlier today, I would have to concur with you with the fact that I don't believe that it's just isolated in the maximum security prisons. There's a significant amount of violence in our max jails, but there's also a significant amount of violence in our medium facilities as well.
The issue of double bunking has come up pretty regularly in the past. I know, having toured some of the facilities in and around my district, I think we got the impression that the double bunking and double celling wasn't really a safety issue or security issue, that some of these are constructed that way, but we still know that I think over 6,000 beds in our facilities are either double bunked or double celled. Do you, from your perspective and from the perspective of the officers who work in our facilities, does this conducive of a safer environment, or is it more obviously of a disruptive environment for an issue where more violence can be fostered?
In our medium settings, in a housing unit with 60 inmates and with one officer, obviously it would not necessarily make it all that much easier, but it would be a bit easier for that officer to supervise 50 inmates than it would 60. There are currently 6,835 top bunks in classification situations. That potentially has the number to be, if you fill every one of them, you've got 13,670 inmates that can be placed in a double bunk situation. There are 2,237 top bunks and double cells statewide in the max. Docs claims that 2,140 of these beds exist in cells that were built to accommodate double occupancy. 3,342 top bunks exist in medium and dorm room settings. The remaining 1,250 top bunks exist in maximum male jails and female. Our concern with a majority of this is if you were to take down the top bunks and move the inmate population into the vacant consolidated dorms that we have now, the 8,000 number of alleged empty beds would pretty much be eradicated, and you would have maybe, 1,000 to 1,200 maybe empty beds statewide. And that would make, not necessarily easier, but it's going to create a bit of a relief for that officer who not only has to deal with potentially 32 or 22 inmates just on this back wall alone, which is approximately from us to you away in that dorm situation. So he can't see everything across the back end of that wall, he or she. So it has its issues without question. And we believe strongly that the double bunks need to come down.
Relative to some training, I want a couple quick questions, hopefully you can address as you speak. But one of the things that I've been made aware about, and a lot of us have been made aware about, is the department's policy on training security staff to administer Narcan for drug overdoses. And what's your experience on the number of drug overdoses that are going on in our facilities? We know it's a rampant drug problem, but the drug overdoses and having to train staff on administering Narcan for drugs that shouldn't even be going into the prisons in the first place, and how to spending training dollars on that, and what about the department sees from your corrections officers, addressing the training that you do need in your facilities that would be helpful to keep you safe while doing your job.
I believe the acting commissioner says that, in one part of his statement was that we've seen a lot of change, and it's coming fast and furious. And some of that aspect of what you talk about regarding the training is actually part of it. We're cutting corners in certain aspects of our training curriculum to bring about the Narcan. Now, the overdoses, to answer your question regarding the overdoses in many of the facilities, they're significant. And it's this K2, this synthetic marijuana that's out there, that is creating a lot of these overdoses. And this Narcan, many times, we've had as many as 17 applications applied to an overdosed inmate before he actually took to it. Flatlined, the whole 9 yards before he was brought back to life. And that training component, we constantly drive home training. And as I mentioned earlier, we're a bit behind the times, quite a bit behind the times with other areas of the country and our trade. And what we need is consistently more training, technology, and resources.
And one last question. I know the union and the department completed a mutually agreed to staffing audit statewide. And how did those results come out, and what's your thinking and impact on that? Oh, sorry about that.
We never have enough staff, quite frankly, we have a lot of workplace violence incidents that occur that deplete our staff. And, we're not satisfied with the staffing levels that we have in every 54 of our facilities at this point. We'll continue to advocate and push for additional staff.
Thank you for what you do and your members do for our communities. Appreciate it.
Thank you.